Alright guys, it was Valentine's Day and I figured what better way to spend it than fishing. Anyhow, launched out a D&D bait in Pine Island, matlacha, and I was going to head out toward Charlotte Harbor and see what we could get into. First thing in the morning I set out on the flats with some live shrimp and managed to catch a nice 16.5 inch little sea trout. You're going to see that here in just a second. There it is. Good eating. Anyhow, I also want to tell you a little bit about the history of this area. Charlotte Harbor, Gasparilla Bay, Gasparilla Island, Captiva, Sanibel, and Yusepa. This area, in 1513, when Ponce de Leon discovered La Florida, he went ahead and sailed down around the peninsula and back up into the Gulf, and he discovered some islands jutting out into the Gulf. And they believe those islands to have been Sanibel, Captiva, and Gasparilla. Anyhow, he turned around there, followed back down, went on the inside of Sanibel, followed up into Charlotte Harbor. And he actually, in 1521, was mortally wounded by Clusa braves in an expedition to drop off livestock. It was said this is the first place that livestock was introduced into the New World, was 1521 in Pine Island by Ponce de Leon himself. Alright, this area is also reportedly the hideout of notorious pirate Jose Gaspar. The reason it became one of his hideout is because it was one of the deepest natural ports in Florida. Captiva was actually named because Captiva was the island where Jose Gaspar, he would take his male captives and he would just murder them, and his female captives he would take and drop off on Captiva Island, and he would either force them to become him or his crew's wives, or they would ransom them. Reportedly, Yusepa Island is named after a princess, a Spanish princess that he had captured and threatened to behead if she didn't give in to his lustful advances. Well, she still refused, so in a fit of rage he beheaded her and immediately regretted the deed, and reportedly he himself took her body over to Yusepa Island and buried it and named the island after her. Sanibel is named after Gaspar's first mate's lover in Spain, and it was also the reported hangout of Black Caesar, the dreaded pirate. Now, legend has it that in 1821, Gaspar was getting ready to retire when one of his lookouts saw a fat prize, and it was just too good to give up. So they went out to attack it, only to find out it was the U.S. Navy's pirate hunter, the USS Enterprise. When after the battle, they were in danger of sinking. Gaspar reportedly wrapped an anchor chain around himself and jumped over the side, shouting, "Gasparilla dies by his own hand, not by the enemy's." All right. There's some interesting, since I'm pumping the boat out here, let's talk about some sunken treasure in Charlotte Harbor. In 1563, an unnamed galleon of the Veracruz Spanish fleet was sunk with an unknown amount of treasure aboard in Charlotte Harbor. In 1821, Gaspar's ship, the Florida Blanca, was sunk by the U.S. Navy with reportedly $9 million worth of treasure aboard. And also in 1821, an unnamed American frigate sank at the entrance to Big Gasparilla Pass with over $1 million in coin. So that's over $10 million worth of treasure reportedly on the bottom of where I'm fishing right now and pumping my boat out, hoping that I don't sink as well. Right now we're over the Kpays artificial reef. We're right near there, and it's constructed of culverts, concrete boxes, and steel pipes. Most of it was set in 1995. There was one section I believe was set in 2002. Speaking of Jose Gaspar, every year Tampa has a big pirate festival that celebrates it. The first one was in 1904. They usually hold it at the end of January. I think it's the last weekend of January. And it's a huge festival. It's like a week long or longer. And they have a big ship in the harbor. It's an amazing time. Check it out. Anyhow, that's been a little bit of information. Again, we're fishing in Charlotte Harbor. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you'd like to see in future videos. I should be doing some transmission videos coming up. I hope you guys enjoy those. I've got a couple of high performance transmissions to build. A Turbo 400 for a street rod, 350 for a swamp buggy, and a C6 for a swamp buggy. Kind of gotten out of it for a while, but now that my weight is at a manageable level where I can actually physically do the work again, looking forward to getting back into it. But yeah, right here you see the marker, and if you look real closely at the fish finder, you can actually see some of the artificial reef underneath me. But I didn't catch anything. Had a few break-offs. I caught the one trout earlier in the day, and then at the bridge I caught a triggerfish, but I didn't catch anything out here. I am the world's worst fisherman, so that doesn't really surprise me. This area has been home to commercial fishermen for a long time. Actually, some of the first Spanish settlers were fishermen. They were known as Spanish Seminoles or Spanish Indians. And they would intermarry with the Indians, and they set up fishing ranchos. Then around the 1850s, then the U.S. government came in after the Spanish Indian, or the Seminole Indian Wars, and kicked them all out because they claimed that the Spanish were colluding with the Indians, and they forced them all out. So, but when I first moved to Florida, I remember it was when, right around the time they were banning the gill nets for the mullet. And Pine Island, Matlacha area was home to huge fleets of mullet fishermen. It also was home to oyster harvesters back in the early 20th century. Railroads, tarpon, and hunting is what really caused the development of this area. When they put in the phosphate mine in the late 1800s, well, I guess it'd be late 1900s, like 1870, somewhere in there, they put in the phosphate mine, and it really became a big boom.